Jack Tatum.
He's only number 6?
He should be number 1.
Number 6 on your list as feared, number 1 as most dangerous.
Let me ask you something. If someone paralyzes another human being and refuses to apologize for 32 years, what do you call that person? A monster? A criminal? The Oakland Raiders called him the Assassin, and on August 12, 1978, he proved they were right. One hit, one single collision. Darryl Stingley, a rising star receiver, went down on that field and never walked again, paralyzed from the chest down, for life. But here's what the NFL doesn't want you to know. Jack Tatum looked straight into the cameras and said, "I was just doing my job. I don't apologize for how I play the game." Years later, Darryl Stingley, confined to a wheelchair, battling infections, reached out to Tatum. He wanted closure, just one conversation before he died. Tatum ignored him completely. But before that hit, Jack Tatum was the most feared defensive back in football history. Quarterbacks were terrified. Running backs would rather go out of bounds than face him. The Raiders loved him. The NFL knew what he was doing, and they let it happen because it made them money. So why did they let the Assassin hunt players for years? And why, after destroying a man's life, did Jack Tatum die believing he was the victim? This is a story they buried, and it's uglier than you think. But to understand how Jack Tatum became a weapon, we need to go back to where it all started, Ohio State University, 1968. Because Jack Tatum wasn't born an assassin, he was created. And the man who created him? One of the most controversial coaches in college football history, Woody Hayes, the legendary and brutal Ohio State head coach. Hayes didn't just coach football, he coached war. His philosophy was simple. Football is about hitting people harder than they hit you. If you're not willing to hurt someone, you don't belong on my field. And Jack Tatum? He was the perfect student. At Ohio State, Tatum became known as the Assassin. Teammates said he didn't just tackle players, he hunted them. In practice, guys would fake injuries to avoid going against him. In games, opponents straight up quit on routes when they saw number 32 coming. Tatum loved it. In his autobiography, yes, he literally wrote a book called They Call Me Assassin. He said, "My idea of a good hit is when the victim wakes up on the sideline with train whistles blowing in his head. I like to believe that my best hits border on felonious assault." Let that sink in. Felonious assault. He said that out loud in a published book. And Woody Hayes? He encouraged it. He praised it. But here's what makes this insane. The NFL knew about Jack Tatum's reputation. They watched his film. They saw the injuries he caused. They read the quotes. And in 1971, the Raiders drafted him in the first round. Because violence sells tickets. The Oakland Raiders weren't just a football team. They were outlaws. Al Davis, the owner, had a motto, "Just win, baby." It didn't matter how you won. Cheap shots? Legal. Late hits? Encouraged. Intimidation? Required. Jack Tatum fit right in. His teammates gave him a new nickname, the Assassin. Defensive end George Atkinson said Jack doesn't just hit you, he tries to end you. And do you know what the crazy part is? Atkinson, Tatum's own teammates, later called Raiders hits criminal activity and said the team coached them to injure opponents. The NFL investigated, found evidence, did nothing. Because the Raiders were winning, and winning teams make money. So how bad was Jack Tatum? Let me put it this way. From 1971 to 1978, 7 seasons, he sent multiple players to the hospital with concussions, broken bones, and career-ending injuries. And the NFL kept letting him play. Let's talk about some of Jack Tatum's greatest hits. 1973, AFC Championship game. Tatum destroys Steelers tight end John McMacken with a helmet-to-helmet shot. McMacken's jaw is shattered. He's unconscious for minutes. When he wakes up, he doesn't know where he is. Penalty? None. Tatum celebrates. 1975 versus Kansas City Chiefs. Tatum launches at running back Ed Podolak, who's already being tackled by two Raiders. Tatum's hit is so late and so vicious that Podolak suffers a severe concussion and misses the rest of the season. Fine? $0. The league calls it incidental contact. 1976 versus the Minnesota Vikings. Tatum hits receiver Sammy White so hard that White's helmet flies off mid-air. White lays motionless on the field for over 5 minutes, diagnosed with a grade 3 concussion. The NFL's response? That's football. Do you see the pattern here? The NFL watched Jack Tatum destroy careers and did nothing because ratings were up, tickets were selling. The bad boy Raiders were must-watch TV. But then George Atkinson spoke up. Remember, Tatum's own teammate. In 1976, Atkinson gave an interview where he said, "What we're doing isn't football, it's criminal. We're coached to hurt people, to end careers, and the league doesn't care because we're winning." The NFL was furious. They threatened to suspend Atkinson. Al Davis sued the reporter who published the quote. But the damage was done. People started asking questions. How long until someone gets seriously hurt? How long until a player doesn't get back up? The answer? 2 more years. By 1978, other teams were begging the NFL to do something about the Raiders. Chuck Noll, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, publicly called Jack Tatum and George Atkinson part of a criminal element in football. The Miami Dolphins filed an official complaint after Tatum knocked out their star receiver with a blindside hit. Even referees started warning the league that someone was going to die on the field. But the NFL had a problem. If they banned violent hits, they'd lose their audience. People loved the brutality, the highlight reels, the savage knockouts. So they made a choice: let the violence continue. And then, August 12, 1978 happened. August 12, 1978. Oakland Coliseum. Raiders versus Patriots. Preseason game. A game that didn't even count. And in one moment, Darryl Stingley's life was over. Before we talk about the hit, you need to know who Darryl Stingley was. 26 years old, Patriots star wide receiver, 5 seasons in the NFL. Coming off his best year, 39 catches, 657 yards, 5 touchdowns. He was fast, explosive. The Patriots were building their offense around him. He had a wife, a young son, a future Hall of Fame career ahead of him. And then Jack Tatum took it all away. Second quarter, Patriots run a crossing route. Quarterback Steve Grogan throws high and behind Stingley. Stingley jumps, stretches, completely defenseless in midair. And Jack Tatum, seeing his chance, launches. Helmet to helmet. Full speed, no attempt to wrap up. Pure violence. The impact is so loud that players on the sideline hear it. Stingley drops, doesn't move, doesn't get up. Trainers rush out. Stingley can't feel his legs, can't move his arms, struggling to breathe. They stabilize his neck, load him onto a stretcher, rush him to the hospital. Diagnosis: fractured vertebrae, crushed spinal cord. Paralyzed from the chest down. Forever. 26 years old, and his life, as he knew it, was over. And you want to know the sickest part? Jack Tatum didn't visit Stingley in the hospital, didn't call, didn't send flowers. He went to the locker room, showered, and went home. When reporters asked him, you know what he said? "I didn't think it was that serious." A man is paralyzed, and Tatum didn't think it was that serious? Darryl Stingley spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk, couldn't hug his son, couldn't work, required 24/7 care. He suffered chronic pain, recurring infections, pressure sores that wouldn't heal. And every single day he relived that moment, that hit, that split second that destroyed everything. Meanwhile, Jack Tatum, he kept playing, kept hitting, kept celebrating. the NFL fined him $500. $500 for ending a man's career. For context, a parking ticket in Oakland costs more than that. But here's where the story gets even darker. Because after the hit, the NFL immediately changed the rules. Helmet-to-helmet contact on defenseless receivers? Now illegal. Launching at players in midair? Now a penalty. Hits that unnecessarily endanger a player? Now a suspension. So let me ask you something. If these rules needed to exist after the Stingley hit, why didn't they exist before? The answer is simple. The NFL knew these hits were dangerous. They just didn't care until the cameras caught it. After Stingley, the league panicked. Public outrage was massive. Sponsors were threatening to pull out. Politicians were calling for investigations. So the NFL did what they always do. They pretended to care. New rules, new safety protocols, new fines. But here's the problem. They changed the rules, but they didn't punish Jack Tatum. He didn't get suspended, didn't lose his contract, didn't face criminal charges. He played 4 more seasons after paralyzing Darryl Stingley. The NFL's message was clear. We'll change the rules so it looks like we care, but we're not actually going to punish anyone. And it gets worse, because while the NFL was protecting Jack Tatum, they were erasing Darryl Stingley. No tribute, no acknowledgement, no support. Stingley's medical bills were massive, millions of dollars. The Patriots paid some of it, but then quietly cut ties with him. The NFL, they sent him a $10,000 check, one time, and never contacted him again. Meanwhile, they were making billions off the same violence that destroyed his life. And Jack Tatum? In 1980, just 2 years after paralyzing Stingley, he published his autobiography. The title, They Call Me Assassin. In the book, he brags about his hits, celebrates the injuries, calls himself a warrior. And the Stingley hit, he dedicates 1 paragraph to it, says it was unfortunate, but insists he did nothing wrong. No apology, no remorse, no acknowledgement of the devastation he caused. The book became a bestseller. Tatum made millions, and Darryl Stingley sat in a wheelchair watching the man who destroyed his life get rich and famous off of it. Tell me, how is that justice? For 25 years, Darryl Stingley tried to reach out to Jack Tatum. Phone calls, letters, messages through mutual friends. He didn't want money, didn't want revenge. He just wanted one conversation. To understand, to find closure, to hear Tatum say, "I'm sorry." And Jack Tatum? He ignored every single attempt. Ghosted him, refused to acknowledge him, acted like Stingley didn't exist. In 2007, Darryl Stingley died. He was 55 years old. Cause of death? Heart disease and pneumonia. Both complications from his paralysis. He spent 29 years in that wheelchair. 29 years of pain, struggle, and unanswered questions. And Jack Tatum? He released a statement saying, "I'm saddened by his passing. He was a great competitor." That's it. No apology, no acknowledgement of responsibility. Just a generic PR written sentence. Even in death, Tatum refused to give Stingley what he deserved. 3 years later, in 2010, Jack Tatum died of a heart attack. He was 61 years old. And you know what? He died still believing he did nothing wrong. In his final interviews, he said, "I played the game the way I was taught. I have no regrets. The NFL made me who I am. And then they turned their back on me when the rules changed." He genuinely believed he was the victim. Not Darryl Stingley, the man who spent 3 decades in a wheelchair. Not the dozens of other players he injured. Him. Jack Tatum died angry, bitter, unapologetic. And the NFL? They quietly moved on. No tributes, no Hall of Fame consideration. They buried his name just like they buried the truth about what they let him do. So let me ask you the question I started with. If someone paralyzes another human being and refuses to apologize for 32 years, what do you call that person? Was Jack Tatum a monster? Or was he just a product of a system that created monsters and then threw them away when they became inconvenient? Here's what I think. Jack Tatum was a weapon. The NFL built him, aimed him, and fired him at players for years. They made millions off his violence. They sold tickets because of it. They put his hits on highlight reels. And when Darryl Stingley paid the price, the NFL acted shocked, changed the rules, pretended they had no idea this could happen. But they did know. They always knew. So who's the real villain in this story? Jack Tatum, the player who followed orders and destroyed lives? Or the NFL, the league that gave those orders, profited from the destruction, and then buried the evidence? I'll let you decide. But remember, the next time you watch a brutal hit in an NFL game and the crowd cheers and the highlight plays on repeat, someone's paying the price, just like Darryl Stingley did. And the NFL, they're counting the money. So I'll ask you one last time. Who's really responsible here? The player who pulled the trigger or the league that loaded the gun? Drop your answer in the comments, because this conversation, it's far from over. If this story shocked you, if it made you angry, if it made you think differently about the NFL, hit that like button. This is the type of content YouTube tries to bury, and your engagement keeps it alive. And if you want more stories about the NFL legends they tried to erase, the players they sacrificed for profit, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started. We're diving into the dark side of football history, the stories they don't want you to know, the players who got destroyed by the system. Drop a comment and tell me, who should we cover next? What NFL legend's real story do you want to hear? And if you made it this far, you're part of something special. You're not just watching highlight reels, you're uncovering the truth. I'll see you in the next one. Stay legendary.